mechanical engineer. So prerequisites to be a design engineer, yes, towards the latest part of the webinar today we'll be having a discussion exclusively on this part of it, but the initial few slides will talk specifically about what as a mechanical engineer you could get. So what is that I'm going to talk about today? What is that you're going to take away from this particular session? See, very first thing is we see that a lot of students have no very clear clarity on what exactly is the mechanical industry and who is their employer. So we'll first understand what exactly is the mechanical industry, who are the major employers. Then we'll try to understand what is the kind of work that's going on in the companies, what is the kind of developments that's happening, and what is the kind of job roles that I can seek. And then after that, we're going to talk about the changes that is happening in the current world, where we try to understand the future technologies and trends that we could look forward to. And then we are going to specifically talk about the session title, that's prerequisites, where we try to understand what is the preparations that we need to do, or what is the eligibility that I should have to get into that particular role that I'm trying to apply for. So these are the things that we'll talk about. And at the end of the session, if you have any queries and questions, you can always ask me through the Q&A. So I request all of you to keep yourselves on mute, and if there's any queries and questions, you can ask me at the end of the session, please. So my presentation will be more on a solution basis. We are not just going to talk about what issues are there. We're going to talk about more of solution and what exactly you could do to become a part of this particular industry. So getting right into the topic, the first thing, as I said, we have to understand what is the industry. See, when we talk about mechanical industry, it's a very broad term. Mechanical industry has its verticals, and these are the verticals where most of the engineering talent is being hired. So these are the students in college, but where are they being hired? Much of the talent from the engineering colleges that comes out is basically going into the automotive and transportation sector, aerospace and defense sector, industrial machinery, heavy engineering, locomotives, energy and utilities, consumer products and retail, medical equipment, marine and offshore, electronics and semiconductor. So these are some of the most widely present areas where most of the engineers are being hired. Now the next question would be, okay, these are people who are these are industries that are hiring me, but for what role are they hiring me? So what is the kind of opportunities they are giving me? So you need to understand that what these companies might be, or what these sectors might be. They are ultimately creating products for the consumption of a person. So you're basically creating something that someone is going to use. So automotive, the product is a car. Aerospace, the product is an aircraft. Industrial machinery, the product is a machine. Locomotives, the product is a train. So all of this basically tells us that each of those companies has a proprietary product, and as an engineer, I am involved in the making of this particular product. So as an engineer, please understand that you will always have two open products, either be a part of a service based company or a part of a product based company, where you're it's something like you're involved in either making the product or you're involved in the services of the product. So at the end of the day, what we can target is that there is something called as a product, and product is what runs the entire business. So whether it is an automobile, whether it is an aircraft, whether it is a machine, they are all products of those specific companies. And as an engineer, I am involved in something called as the product life cycle. So as an engineer, it's very important for me to know this product life cycle so that I can clearly understand where I can fit inside this particular loop. So let us quickly understand what is product life cycle. So when we talk about product life cycle, it's basically the start and end of a product. So what is a product? Product is anything that a customer is willing to buy. Okay. So a product is going to come into picture only when there's a need for it. So either there might be a customer who comes up with a need and is I want someone to solve this problem, or it might be something that is done for the first time in this world. So somehow there's an idea, and that idea is basically going to be thoroughly studied, and we understand and we do something called as research, and we try to understand what is done already in the past, and is something is what we are trying to do better than something that is already available. So all the benchmarking and brainstorming is going to be done, where we try to come up with the best possible idea. And once we have found the best possible idea or a most feasible idea, we have to convert it into a physical product. For an example, let's say as a customer, I have a problem that my room is heating up. So then I have a solution. Either I can buy a fan or either I can buy an AC. But at the end of the day, if you both of them, they are physical products. So physical products need to have a production, and for production to happen, obviously there needs to be a design, and that's where basically you need to start utilizing some of the computer aided tools like computer aided design and computer aided engineering tools, which will help you to do design and validation of the product. So all the virtual blueprint or virtual simulation is going to take place in the area of design, where you are going to basically create a blueprint of this particular product, and it is going to be basically passed down to the next stages like the prototype, where you start trying to create a prototype that's going to help you with the testing in the form of fit, form, and function, or even the physical shape and size analysis would be done at that stage. And once all of this is taken care, you move into the pre-production stages, where you try to do things like the manufacturing process plan, and then you'll go into tooling design, you will get into SEM. So all of these things will be taken care here. And if all goes well, you move into a batch production, where you try to understand the things about how there is what any quality issues. And if everything is going well, you move into the full scale production. And once production has happened, you have to market it, you have to sell it, and you have to get details from customers on called the feedback, and that feedback will help me come up with better products going down the line. So this particular thing is what we refer to as the product life cycle. And as an engineer, my role is to fit somewhere inside this particular stages, irrespective of what kind of company it is, whether it's a nut and bolt manufacturing company or whether it is a aircraft manufacturing company. They all are building a product. So the product life cycle remains the same. The only thing that is going to be different is the scale of operations. How many number of systems are there, how long it's going to be. That's the only difference. It's not about what they are building. The process remains the same. Like I said, it's only about what is basically going to be involved. So considering that, please understand that every company is working on a product, and you are required within this product life cycle. So now where are you required? Let us understand. So as an engineer, I can take up any specific roles here within the product life cycle. So it's not that I can be only in one stage. So if you see today's title, it is engineer. That's just one role that you can play. There is many other roles as a mechanical engineer I can take up because of areas that is available in this product life cycle. So if you now relate yourself with someone who's working in the industry, so let's say you know who is a design engineer, or if you know someone who's an R&D engineer, if you know someone who's a marketing executive, you'll be easily able to connect that
Excuse me,
cycles. So yes, sir.
sir. Voice is breaking, not clear.
Is it breaking
Yeah,
now?
not clear. It is ringing and also breaking.
Okay. Could you just give me 2 minutes? I'll just
Okay.
change my place. Please give me 1 minute. Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to hear me well and clear?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Just 1 second. Let me share my screen. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, so as I was saying, what happens here is that we can, as a mechanical engineer, we can associate ourselves with any specific roles that exist within the product lifecycle. And if you can now think of your discussions with your family, friends, or seniors, they might have told you that I'm an R&D engineer, I'm a CAD engineer. So now you'll easily be able to connect with their roles and the kind of work that happens in the industry. So if someone says I'm an R&D engineer, I'm an NPD engineer, they come in the areas of concept development. If someone says I'm in the areas of I'm a design engineer, a CAD engineer, application engineer, draftsman, stress engineer, all those people come in the areas of product design. If someone says I'm a prototype engineer, then I'm in, or let's say he's working with 3D printing or additive manufacturing, then he's a prototype engineer. If someone says I'm a person who is working on tools, that's jigs and fixtures, molds, such kind of things, then he's a tooling engineer. Especially students from GTTC, NTTF, they come under this category. If someone you know is working with CNC programming, then he's a CAM engineer. They all come under the areas of pre-production. If someone is working as a production engineer, quality inspector, store in charge, manufacturing supervisor, they all come under the manufacturing sector. And if you know someone who is a marketing executive, service engineer, maintenance engineer, tech support, all those people come under the product support areas. So these are specific roles as an engineer you can handle. So you are required to work in specific areas here. So you can see 6 sectors. So you can be any one in any one of the sectors. You may not get to do all of them. You generally will get to do any one specifically. If they did, again depends on how big the company is. But in general, you will be required for a specific reason, not for everything. So considering that this is the kind of roles that you can get as a fresher. So have a very clear look at this and try to understand what possible roles you could get as a mechanical engineer. Okay, so now we know what is the industry, we know what is the kind of work that happens in the industry, and now we also know what is the kind of roles that I can get in the industry. So now the next question that we have is, obviously now that we know all of this, the next question is, what is the kind of competition that I have? So now I have a question for all the students here. You can just unmute and speak. So what is the competition you have? So let's say you're applying for some opportunities available. Who is your competition? So please keep it interactive. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you say is an answer. So who do you think is your competition? So if you are applying for some opportunities,
Industry standards, sir.
yeah, yeah,
Sir,
I did not.
industry standards, industry standards. There is a
Industry
very much
standard is
competition.
not your competition.
So
I'm asking if you're applying
actually,
for a job, who is your competition?
for my knowledge, sir, my knowledge is my competition. We have to know thoroughly about the job and the prescription of the job.
Okay, but that's not your competition, right? Obviously, you're building your own mind, right? You're building your own knowledge. So, it is for what purpose you're building it? For getting that job. So, my question is, who is your competition? Anyone, very simple. You're applying for a job. Who is your competition?
Whoever
Just,
is learning about our mechanical department.
yeah, correct. Anyone who is basically a mechanical engineer is your competition. So, first and foremost thing, your friends today who are there in this webinar are your competition. Second thing, all the students from mechanical engineering coming out in this academic year, they are your competition. But there is also one more competition that we generally tend to forget, and that is technology. You need to understand that a lot of jobs which were manual earlier today are taken over by machines and computers. So, which means that on the hindsight, there is another thing that is actually taking up some of the job roles that we could earlier do. And that is basically the change that is happening in the industry. So today, we are in something called as the era of industry 4.0, or we are in the fourth industrial revolution that's happening currently. So, what we are trying to do with this fourth industrial revolution, or what are we doing in this? It's basically we are trying to combine things in order to make a successful model, which basically is able to get us the best possible productivity through our uh, current industrial setup. So, in simple words, we are trying to convert our traditional factories into a smart factory. And how we are able to do that is by combining automation, data technologies, and by integrating software, equipment, and people. So when we combine all these things, we are in a position to create what we call as a smart factory setup. So what we are trying to do here is pretty simple. Right now, let's say I have a lathe machine. It's just a standalone machine. But imagine that I make it CNC. That's one level higher. But imagine that that CNC machine is able to uh, think by itself. Then it's a much, much higher level of automation that I'm giving it. So we are trying to equip each and every machine with a computer kind of a setup, where basically we are trying to make all our machines a smart machine by giving it a computer to handle itself, as well as connect it with a lot of sensors which will which will collect a lot of information, which will later be processed through your big data analytics or the data science tools, as well as a lot of uh, artificial intelligence and machine learning is involved, where you are trying to basically make sure that the system itself is going to take care of itself. So it means that the diagnosis, the monitoring, all of it is to be done by the machine themselves. So all this technologies what we today have an idea about, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of that is basically being pumped into our existing traditional setup, where we are trying to enable machine to machine communication through IoT and other means, which will automatically help us to make sure that things go on smoothly, since we have an interconnected set of devices which are smart by themselves. So considering that, please understand that today we require everything smart. So there is a very obviously we need for a smart industry as well. So considering that it's already a successful model in a lot of countries like Germany, South Korea, and other places where the automation levels are already very high. So India as a nation does not have the kind of robot population to go with a full-fledged application of Industry 4.0 yet. But with the current situation where human movements are very much restricted through lockdowns and other things, it is very important for a company to continue to have good productivity. So automatically the only thing that can be done is to have a factory run by itself, but with very low supervision from a human, and that too from a remote environment. So if this can be enabled, then it's the best thing that can happen for any company and its owner. So considering that industry 4.0 is going to take off in India as well, so considering that, we need to be prepared for it. So what is the kind of change we will see, and what is the kind of uh, factors that are driving this industry 4.0 are basically these technologies. So when you say industry 4.0, it brings a lot of technologies together for it to function. And things, the technologies like cybersecurity, augmented reality, virtual reality, big data analytics, autonomous robots, additive manufacturing, simulation, system integration, cloud computing, Internet of Things. All of these are basically some of the technologies that are the driving factors for Industry 4.0. And as a mechanical engineer, you need to now start exploring these technologies, because this is what is changing your industry. And you trying to become a part of the industry have to start understanding the roles of these technologies in the change that is happening. So unless you understand these kind of things, it's not the right kind of place you are in. So please understand that if you want to have an upper edge about in terms of your competition with the others, then you have to basically have an awareness of all these things. I'm not trying to say that you have to become an expert in cybersecurity or an expert in Internet of Things, but I'm trying to say at least know what is Internet of Things. A lot of people, they don't have an idea about what is Internet of Things, but that is all across our globe, and we are using it on a daily basis unknowingly. So please understand that these are technologies that are driving forces of the industry 4.0, and you as a mechanical engineer who is trying to be a part of this industry is the first person to who should know all these things. So explore these topics, try to understand what they are, and try to understand how they are being implemented in this industry 4.0 setup, or specifically in a manufacturing setup, is what you could learn about. So please understand that these are possible doors for you for future opportunities. So if you are someone who is trying to look forward to certain roles other than design and other manufacturing jobs, then these are also possible areas that you should look for. So don't think that it's only a computer science topic, I'm not interested. It's not the days anymore. Today we have to have a multidisciplinary approach. We cannot just stick to one discipline and say this is the only thing that I'm going to do. That's not how it should work. So if you just see today a watch, previously a watch was purely mechanical, but today you can see a watch is smartwatch, which basically is a combination of multiple engineering disciplines like electronics, computer science, and mechanical. So considering that, what happens today is you need to open up yourselves to learn about certain things that will enable creation of better and better products. So in that particular direction, please move towards specialization in specific topics which come under the purview of industry 4.0 if you're going ahead with that. Okay, so until here, what I wanted to give you was an idea about what the industry is all about and how it's changing. So now, till now, we have understood what is the industry. We understood what is the kind of work that goes on in every industry. Then we understood specifically what is the kind of uh, roles that you could get, and also finally we understood the kind of changes the industry is going through and what are the driving factors of those changes. So now the next thing that we're going to talk about is something more closer towards the title of the day. That's prerequisites to be a design engineer. So after having I think someone is on unmuted, so please mute yourselves. Yeah. So after having come out of colleges, the general thing that we see with students is they are not specific about what they want to do. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we observe. They have no very clear idea on what is the path that they want to travel. So this is what this image very clearly tells what as a student you are going to do after coming out of college. You are trying to figure out what to do. That's a problem. So a lot of things that we observed was that there's no destination with the students. Unless you have a destination, you cannot plan a journey. Unless you decide that you want to be a design engineer, you cannot decide what you have to do as prerequisites. Unless you decide that you want to be a manufacturing engineer, you cannot decide what you have to learn. So for anything to be done, you need to very clearly plan on a goal or a destination. Only then you can actually start mapping the journey of how you have to navigate to reach your goal. So considering that the destination here today, what we are talking about is becoming a design engineer. And to be a design engineer, what are the prerequisites is what we will talk about now. See, in the year of 2019, we have placed, CADMAX has placed 300 mechanical engineers into core mechanical jobs. So we have placed them in manufacturing jobs, design jobs, technical publication jobs, and quality roles, many different kinds of jobs exclusively related to mechanical engineering. So when we studied all the requirements, we understood that any company that is coming to us specifically focused on four parameters which the student has to satisfy. So if you could give satisfactory results in these four parameters, you would basically be hired. That's what was happening every time. So when we looked into all of that, very first thing that we saw was that they were checking or testing your technical aptitude. Second thing was they wanted someone to be very proficient with computer aided tools. So specifically when it comes to design related roles, they were looking at computer aided proficiency or computer aided design proficiency. Next, they wanted to have you being aware of the softwares. That's good, but the application of the software is very specific. So how this particular software is being used, that is also something that someone had to know. And finally, we also saw that people were expecting you to behave in a certain way, and how you presented yourself in a certain way was actually deciding certain of the placements. So through our placements, we have been able to identify that there are 4 specific areas that any engineer has to be good at. And if he was good at those 4 areas, he would be selected without a fail. And those 4 areas or 4 parameters are being good at technical aptitude, having good proficiency in computer aided tools, and being aware of the work, and finally the you as a person. That's personal attributes. Let's go deeper into each of them and try to understand what each of them mean. First and the foremost is technical aptitude. See, technical aptitude is not your technical test and aptitude test. No. Technical aptitude means your engineering knowledge and the ability to apply that engineering knowledge. So technical means your technical knowledge. The aptitude means the ability to apply the knowledge. So this image very clearly explains what an industry requires. We require an engineer, and by definition, an engineer is a problem solver. So this image very clearly tells what we want. We want a person who can solve problems by applying his engineering mind, and by basically taking up some of the by addressing some of the challenges that is going to come in the industry by applying his engineering mind and his skill sets and coming out with a solution. That's what we want. So I'll give you a simple question here. Let's try to understand what technical aptitude actually means. So this is a question for all the engineers here. Let's say that I give you a steel block and I give you a vernier caliper, and I'll ask you to get me the mass of the component. Okay, so I give you a steel block and I give you a vernier caliper. Let me know the mass of the component. How do you calculate that? Can you tell me how you are going to do it? A steel block is given, a vernier caliper is given. Get me the mass of the component. Anyone? Very simple question. This is a test of your technical aptitude actually. A steel block in your hand, a vernier caliper in your hand. What is the mass? How do you calculate? Tell me the proper process. Please don't give me some half-cooked answers. I want a proper explanation of what you would do to arrive at the mass. Anyone, guys? I hope I'm not speaking to myself. I have 56 people here, not one answer.
We can find the volumes.
Okay. I don't want the volume, I want the mass.
Volume to density.
Volume into density. What do I do with that? Speak like an engineer, guys. This is the problem with our students. I very clearly told you, don't give me half-cooked answer. Give me the proper explanation or the proper process of how you're going to get me the solution. In an interview also, you'll speak like this. What is that? Sir, this. What is that? Sir, this. Don't give these kind of half answers. I am a person asking you a question, so I expect an answer from you. I don't want something where I have to try to understand. That's not what I'm trying to get to. When you are an engineer, you are a problem solver. So I have given you a problem. Tell me the solution to it. A steel block in your hand, a vernier caliper in your hand. This is what I have given you. How are you going to get me the mass? So if you are telling me density is mass by volume, I don't understand what it is. You're right. I'm not, all of you, what you're saying is correct. I'm not saying it is wrong, but you're not putting it in the right words. You're not explaining the process. I have a vernier in my hand. I have a steel block in my hand. If you are telling me density is mass by volume, how is it connected to the vernier caliper? How is it connected to the steel block? Tell me in the way you connect all the dots. Come on, guys. 56 engineers. Where are you? If even 5 are sleeping, I still have 50 engineers.
First, calculate the volume and multiply the density.
Okay, how do you calculate the volume?
Length into breadth into height.
Okay, how do you get the length? How do you get the breadth?
Using vernier calipers.
Using the caliper.
So that is what I want. I had to come from the reverse way. If you would have told me, sir, there is a block. I have a vernier caliper. Please get the length, the breadth, and the height. You will be able to multiply that. You will be able to get the volume of the block. Next, as a mechanical engineer, I know that density of steel is 7,820 kg per meter cube. I am able to multiply this density with the volume and will be able to get the mass. This is the answer you have to give. And unfortunately, all of you are saying density is mass by volume. That's not the way that you have to answer whenever you get into an interview. This is something that is very important, and it comes as a part of your communication or as your personal attributes. We'll talk about it later. This is something that I always ask students, and this is the same way that every engineer that is there in Karnataka currently is answering, and which is a very bad thing when it comes to an interview. Please be specific. You are an engineer, talk specific things. Okay, so we'll leave it that right now. So now coming back to the question, what this particular question proved here is that you as an engineer have the ability to get a solution. So you got the solution of mass, but how did you get it is what you have to focus here. So here a certain things were your knowledge, certain things was your aptitude. Can you tell me what was the technical knowledge you should have here? What was your technical knowledge part here? Technical knowledge is what you have gained through books, lectures, your classes, such kind of things. What you remember, that is your knowledge. So what was the knowledge part that you should have known here in this question? Anyone? What was the knowledge part? What was the technical knowledge you should have had to answer this question?
Density of
Density of steel.
Yes, you should have known density of steel, correct? Then?
How to use a vernier caliper.
No, that is fine. Yeah, okay, fine, I'll accept that. Then you should have known the formulas, right? Density is mass by volume. You should have known volume of the block is length into breadth into height. So all of these things are things that you have learned and memorized, right? So that's basically your technical knowledge. Whereas aptitude was you being able to understand that if I have the vernier caliper, I can measure the dimensions. If I have the dimensions, I can get the volume. With the volume, I can multiply with the density and I can get the mass. This is your aptitude. The ability to apply your technical knowledge and get a solution, that is aptitude, guys. Okay. So why someone gives you an aptitude test in an interview? 2, 4, 6. What is the next number? 8. So do you think that they are fools to ask you such kind of a question? No. That is a test of your ability to understand things. Aptitude is all about understanding a situation and being able to solve the problem in that situation. That is what aptitude is all about. So in this case situation, there was certain problem that I gave you and you were able to solve it by applying your knowledge, and that's what we want. We don't want someone who just has some bookish knowledge. That's not going to help me in any ways. So I want a problem solver in the industry or in the company. If you are that person, I'm very much interested in you. It's as simple as that. And that is technical aptitude. And that is what every company will test you. Okay. So very simple thing you have to do here in this particular situation is that very first you need to go with So let me come to the solution part. A lot of people are not good at this. Uh, to be very frank, over 75% of engineers are not employable because they are not good with their technical aptitude. This is the hard reality in India. Over 75% of the engineers are not employable because they are not good with their technical aptitude. So, which means that this is something that everyone has to strive to improve. So, what you are supposed to do to improve on this? Very simple. First and the foremost, whatever you are learning, learn it properly and learn it well. That's point number one. Second thing that you have to do is involve yourself in a lot of projects. If you are just going to take up two projects in your whole 4 years, you are not going to improve as an engineer. Engineering is all about creating things, and in the process of this creating things or products, you are going to come across a lot of problems. So unless you face those problems, how are you a problem solver? So thinking that just an exam paper is your problem sheet is not the problem at all. So understand that you need to try to recreate a corporate environment in a college environment. That is how an engineer is being built. Engineer has to be created. So you need to make sure that what is going on in the industry is supposed to be recreated in the college. So what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to work on projects, because all the companies outside, what are they doing? They are working on projects, and in the process of projects there is obviously a lot of problems. Engineering challenges are there, logistics challenges are there, then vendor development, that this everything is there. That is the kind of things you have to learn here. So that is what you are supposed to do, and the only way that you can do it is work on as many projects as possible. Take up a lot of mini projects, take up major projects, take up do it yourself projects, involve a team in it, interact with the team, understand how team dynamics works, and understand how to work within given timelines, understand how to work within a given budget, within a given resource. All these are things that you'll actually require when you get into an industry. So if you can try to recreate a corporate environment in a college environment, that is the best way how you're actually going to improve as an engineer, right? Third thing is try to keep yourselves updated on the changes that is happening in the industry. You need to always be ready with the trends. So understand the trends that is happening in the industry and start preparing for those things. I would highly recommend watching a lot of animations and videos of things that you generally don't understand through your chalk and board learning. So try to look at a lot of YouTube videos and other things which on topics which you may not have understood on a regular basis. So please try to work in this particular way. You're going to improve yourself as an engineer. But at the end of the day, simple. To be an engineer, it means that you are a problem solver, and to solve problems, you have to have problems and you need to solve them. So please make sure that you are working on projects as much as possible. Okay. So the next thing that I have to get into is that if you want to be a design engineer, you have to have proficiency in a certain tool. So computer aided design is the tool that is specifically used for obviously design activities, and you having hands-on skills in that is very important. So especially in India, we may, as a mechanical engineer, our role is not much into manufacturing in India. So we are more into services, especially in the areas of digital product development. So if you look at China, they are the leaders in manufacturing. So their major activity is physical product development, whereas we are more into digital product development. Most of the companies in India specifically invest in India specifically for their R&D infrastructure. If you look at Mercedes-Benz, they have their R&D center in Bangalore. If you look at I think GM, they have their R&D center in Bangalore. Airbus has their R&D center in Bangalore, right? So many big Tesla has their R&D center in Bangalore. Okay, so it means that major organizations across the engineering domains are having their presence in India, but specifically invested in their R&D infrastructure. So considering that, what happens is we are more required in the digital domain. So our work majorly happens on a computer. So major areas that we generally work in is design, simulation, analysis, and validation. And our role majorly aims at a reduction of cost and time, and coming up with better solutions to products, and improving innovation. This is what we try to do. through the efforts that we put in. And in this process of digital product development, majorly we have the involvement of technology like CAD, CAE, and CAM. CAD is computer aided design, CAE is computer aided engineering, and CAM is computer aided manufacturing. So when we talk about specifically a fresh engineer coming out of college, certain areas on this is a little difficult for him to penetrate, like CAE and CAM, because CAE and CAM require certain levels of decision making and a little bit of experience in that particular area, so that you can take a call on whether this is the right thing to do or not. So considering that as a fresh engineer, generally you're hired into CAD more than any of the others. So considering that computer aided design is where most of the fresh engineers are taken, so that the area of CAD specifically focuses on creation of 3D model of parts or assemblies that you're trying to manufacture. So it means that you're trying to build a visualization of the product that you're trying to physically create. So a lot of industry standard tools are used by each of these different companies. So some of the major tools used in the market are NX, CATIA, Creo, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Inventor, and many more. Okay. So much of the companies in the automotive and the aerospace sector specifically focus on tools like NX and CATIA, and most of the mid and small scale companies where budget is a constraint prefer to work with Creo and SolidWorks. So these are basically the things that we generally look for. So NX, CATIA are the major tools that are there in the market and have a lot of opportunities for engineers to take up. Whereas Creo, SolidWorks are the next level tools that most of the companies in the mid and small scale segment will have. Whereas AutoCAD is specifically used in 2D for most of the mechanical engine industry. So we generally do not prefer to use AutoCAD for its 3D application, but only for its 2D drafting activity. So generally AutoCAD has quite simple roles. It doesn't have very complex opportunities for work there. So considering that, AutoCAD is not the most preferred SCAD tool for us. So much of the tools that we work with will be CATIA, NX, Creo, and SolidWorks. Okay, so if I have to recommend what you should learn, I would highly recommend NX, CATIA, because they are the most widely used tools, because the sectors are many. So if you talk about Tata, they use CATIA. If you talk about Mahindra, they use CATIA. If you talk about Mercedes, they use NX. If you talk about Bosch, they use NX. So biggest of big names that you know generally start have a affiliation with CATIA and NX. And the next most preferred tool would be SolidWorks and then Creo. This is how the market is. So you could always look forward to learning this, because this is what can give you opportunities. So when we talk about learning this, how you should learn? See, please understand that whenever you are learning these tools, you have to go through an instructor-led program, and the instructor that is teaching you this tool has to have some experience by himself. So whatever may be the area of your interest, automotive or aerospace, someone from that domain has to teach you this. Only then it is going to be worth it for you to learn this particular tool. So please understand that whatever you are learning, it has to be trained by an industry expert or by a subject matter expert who has an affiliation with the industry, someone from the industry, or someone who has a connect with the industry, and the industry practices is what you have to work on, or the industrial methodologies is what you have to adopt. So just learning a command is of no use. You need to understand how to use the commands as per the industry standards. So that's what you should focus on. Other than that, I would highly recommend all of you getting certified on these particular tools, which is a proof of your proficiency, how good you are on this software. That is defined by the certificate that you get. But again, the certificate that you're getting should be a globally recognized one. So you need to get certified by the developer of the tool. So if you talk about NX is developed by Siemens. So if you have a certificate from Siemens, then it means that your proficiency is actually a proven one in the eyes of Siemens. So in the same way, if you are learning from CATIA, then you have to get certified from Dassault Systems, which is the developer of that software. So there is a vast opportunity for people to get certified. So please get certified if you're learning these tools. And when you're trying to get certified, obviously Deso and Siemens will not come and help you with that. It's the authorized training partners which are there at the local level which will be able to help you. So you need to go to an authorized training partner. Only they can give you certificates like this. No other institute just like that can give you this. So CADMAX is an authorized training partner for Siemens and Dassault Systems. So we are approved by them to train and deliver certificates on their behalf. So that's how a lot of companies would be there, maybe in your region as well. You can just have a look at it and try to understand whether certain infrastructure like that is available and prepare in that direction. So two things here: learn from an industry expert and get certificate from the developers. This is what is going to help you improve and boost your resume, and it's a proof of your proficiency. This is a sample of what certificate you get when you get trained under CADMAX, which is an authorized training partner for Dassault Systems for CATIA, and also we are an authorized training partner for Siemens for NX. Right? This is how it will be. So that's the second part. So you should be very good as an engineer. You should have skills on a CAD platform. The third thing that you need to be good at is an understanding of the industry. A lot of students applying for the job wouldn't even know what is the job description. So as an engineer, when you're coming out of college, you need to have a very clear understanding of what company you're applying for, what is the role that you are being hired for. So unless you have this idea, it's difficult. So that's the reason, if you remember, I told you that you need to know the destination. Without knowing the destination, it's very difficult for you to map the journey. So this is one point which is very important. See, at the end of the day, you want to get hired in certain company, but which company it is and what it is doing is very important for you to know. And that's what we call as a domain. A lot of you people wants to work at Mercedes-Benz, but if I ask you what work you will do at Mercedes-Benz, no one has an answer. So when you are trying to get into any company, what is the kind of areas of work available you should know, and that is what we refer to as domain. Domains are nothing but the departments within the specific company. So if I am talking about an automobile company or an automotive company, they will have departments like passenger safety, chassis or body in white, engine, powertrain, suspension, exhaust system, seating system, electronics, interiors, fuel supply unit, steering system, lighting, electrical wire harness, and so many things will be there. So when you have these many systems, as a engineer, you will be hired specifically to work on one of these systems. So it means that if you are hired into, let's say, Mercedes-Benz, don't think that you are going to do a car. That is not at all the reality of the world, guys. The reality is that you will be put into, let's say, chassis or the BIW department. BIW means body in white. The green part that you see here, the structure of the car, that's body in white. So you will be building only the sheet metal structures, or you will be designing only the sheet metal structures that creates the structure of the car, guys. That is the only work you're going to ever get. So your entire career will be spent only building the body of the car. You're not going to build anything other than that, because as an expert in BIW, you will have the experience to create the best possible surfaces using the skill sets and the knowledge that you have in this particular area. So considering that, please understand that you as a person will be specifically able to work only in one of the domains that you are allowed into. Don't think that you're going to do that, you're going to do this. That's not how it works. So you need to be very clear about what domain is there. And when you are getting into that interview, you should be very clear about what is the area of work that is given to you. And that area of work will be specific to one of the domains or the department. So please be aware of what kind of domain is there. So aerospace has its own domain, automotive has its own domain, a lot of different domains are there. So try to understand what domains are available, and whatever is your area of domain, choose that domain and start preparing a little bit. For an example, let's say you're interested in suspension system, at least have basic idea that cars will use coil springs, and let's say a commercial vehicle like bus and trucks will have leaf springs. At least that level of understanding someone should have. If that also you don't know, or let's say in a car, what different kinds of cars structures are there, like there's a hatchback, there's a coupe, there's a sedan. If at least that also you don't know, then there is no then you cannot say that I'm an automotive enthusiast. So try to prove whatever you say. So if you say I'm interested in a car, then you should be knowing at least some things about a car and the systems in a car, and at least be good with at least any one of the systems of that. So please understand that when you are trying to get into company, you are not there to do everything. You are there to do something which is going to be a part of that everything. Okay, so be very clear on this. So how do you improve and how do you understand about the domains of an organization? It's pretty simple. Whatever is the company that you're interested to work for, go to their website, try to understand what they are doing. A simple example is, let's say you're interested in Mercedes Benz. Mercedes Benz has their office in Bangalore, but they are not doing manufacturing there. So how do I come to know that they don't do manufacturing here? That's by going into their website. When I go to the Mercedes Benz and select the location as India, it shows me that it's in Bangalore. But in Bangalore, what do? They are into R&D, or research and development. That's what they are doing there. So you need to learn that. You need to go through their website, study what they are doing in India, and try to understand what kind of job roles are available. Go through the job descriptions that is posted in their website. And when you go through all those things, you will identify what are the common things that they ask for, and you start preparing for that. Right? You are trying to become a part of that industry. Then you need to try to prepare for what they are asking. So whenever you go to an exam, you know the syllabus. That is how you are prepared for the exam. Exactly like that, your interview is the exam. So what is the syllabus for that? The job description. So please read as many job descriptions as possible. That's the only way you can prepare for the interview. You cannot be like one day you're going to show up on an interview and you're going to become successful. That's not how it is. Please understand that you have a syllabus given by the companies in the form of a job description, and if you are very well prepared based on the job description, you are considered to be selected on the day of the interview. So please make sure that you read that. So go to company websites. Read them, understand them, and prepare according to what is given there. Okay. And the other way that you could do, and the best way that you can approach that, is try to get internships there. So whatever is the area of interest that you have, try to find companies in that area and prepare for an internship there. That's the best way that you can get ground level understanding of the domains. Okay. So this is how you should understand the industry domains and have some basic knowledge about what they are doing. And finally, personal attributes, which is all about how you connect each of these things. See, personal attributes are things that are generally you as a person. So things like your people skills, your communication skills, your effectiveness as a or the way that you express things. So a lot of things, generally what we refer as soft skills, come into this picture. So my most important area that I would recommend is communication, because we have seen that a lot of students fail in their communication. Now I will connect the same thing back to the question that I had asked earlier, steel block and the vernier caliper. A lot of students answered, they were not wrong, but the communication did not happen properly. You gave me half and half answers. I have asked you a very clear question, so I expect a very clear answer. So on the day of the interview, when I am asking you questions, I expect a very proper, direct answer. If you are giving me half and half answers like this, I will judge that you do not have a clear understanding of the topics. Because what happens is, when you give half and half answers, it means that either you are not confident, or either you don't have that interest in telling me the answer. So both of them are negative for you. So please understand that whenever someone is asking you a question, especially in an interview, answer them properly so that people understand what you are trying to say, and they will revert to that. So it's a very important thing that you improve on your communication. And other than that, a lot of people get stuck with the language, that's English. So please make sure that you improve on this. Unfortunately, business language is English, and you have to prepare well in that language only. So considering that, try to work on this. Very simple ways to do it. Try to read English books, try to watch English movies, and more importantly, start speaking in English. You have never spoken in English. That's the reason you're not able to answer in the interview in English. So start opening your mouth in English first, and only then it's going to become better for you from there. So other than that, a lot of things like basic computer skills like using Excel, using a Word, using PPT, using emails, drafting an email and sending it across in the right way. All of these things are areas that you may not think are important, but are very much important from the prospect of getting a job. So please make sure that you improve on your email etiquettes, have good computer skills, have an understanding of how to operate a computer and work with it. So please start working on these basic things, which like I'm saying, they are considered basic, but they have a lot of importance. Okay, so please work on these areas. It's going to help you a lot. See, all of these things what we have talked about has helped our students become successful. Like I said, 300 students being placed is not a joke. In a year we have placed 300 students, so it means that a lot of students have done something right to be in that position. So how it has happened is all because they worked on these 4 specific areas: personal attributes, that is improving on all of the areas, and then having an awareness of what they wanted to do and preparing in that direction, and being certified on certain tools. Specifically, if your interest is in design, then computer aided design is what you should learn. A lot of tools like CATIA, NX, and other things are there. Learn from an authorized training partner. And finally, most important thing that comes here is the technical aptitude. That means be a problem solver, have work, who has worked on a lot of projects and such kind of things, which proves your engineering abilities. So this is what you should do, and this is what will help you go forward in terms of your career. So if I quickly give you an overview on what we looked at and what we basically had to understand, simple. It's all about what different industries we have, what kind of work happens in the industry, what is the roles that we can get, how things are changing and what is changing it. And we also understood what is the kind of uh, prerequisites we have, and if I can prepare on this prerequisites, I am ready for the roles that the industry has to offer me. So I'm sure that a lot of you have understood things, and I hope a lot of people will take these things forward and inculcate a lot of what I have said in your preparation. So we have seen success of our students, and I wish to see your success also through this. So ultimately, please understand that it's a guidance. I'm not someone who can make you do this. So the only thing that we always say at CADMAX is, unless you start, you will never reach. So start. One day you will reach where you wanted to be. So how fast you're going to get a job, how fast you are going to get settled, it's all a matter of how fast you start with your preparation. So when you prepare, first thing is your plan. So make sure that you plan, and when you plan, take data, collect data, analyze the data, and work with data. So take data driven decisions. So if you want to get into a certain company, you have to analyze the data. For an example, job description. If a job description has an eligibility criteria and you don't match the eligibility criteria, you may do anything, you will still not be selected there, because you're not getting into the gates of the company because you don't have the eligibility. So take data driven decisions, understand what is there, and prepare for what is there. A lot of students simply are shooting in the blind. They want a job, what they want to do, no one knows. So don't be that kind of a person who is aimlessly roaming around. Please be a person who has a very clear vision in his mind of what he wants to be, and have a data that backs up your decision. Is there good opportunities available in that area? First identify that. You may say, I want to become like Elon Musk, I want to fly rockets. If that kind of opportunity is not there in India and you want to get stuck only in India, then nothing can be done about it. So please try to understand that as looking at situation around is very important. So just sitting in college and going through books is not the way that you have to prepare for your career. Look outside, understand what the industries are doing, prepare yourself for a role as a consultant or as a problem solver for a specific industry, and you are going to be there one day. And the plans that you have should be backed by strong actions that you take. Only then you're going to get successful. So I'm sure that we could contribute to your success, especially in the areas of learning CAD tools and getting certified through companies like Dassault Systems and Siemens. So if you would like to get to know more about what we do, you